Today, I would like to talk about the deadline paradox, something that I've written about in my article Parkinson Was an Optimist. Let's say you read the piece. You nodded along, you thought about the landing page you have been refining since February, and then you close the tab and open your email. That gap between knowing a framework and actually using it is where 90% of entrepreneurs live. It is the most expensive real estate in your business. So this is not a summary of the article. If you have not read it yet, go read it first. There is also a worksheet for the steps so we can talk here and do the work. The link is below in the description section. I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps from the piece, but we are going to do them together. You will have a real project, a real deadline, and a real plan by the end of this video. Pause me whenever I say write things down, open the worksheet that you can use for this purpose. This is because what we'll discuss only works if you do the work. Let me show you what I mean. Before we touch the framework, I want you to look at your current workload and answer 3 specific questions. Be honest, nobody is watching. Question 1. Name one project you have been working on for more than, let's say, a month that has not shipped anything real yet. Question 2. If a client had paid you $5,000, let's say, for that project with delivery due Friday, would it ship? Question 3. If yes, ask yourself what is different between the scenario and your current reality. The answer is never more time. It is always something else, and you must identify that something. Now pause here and answer all 3 questions. I asked these 3 questions because they expose the real problem. The problem is not a lack of deadlines. It is more a lack of consequences, a lack of clarity about what you're actually building, and the lack of permission to ship something that is not perfect. The 5-step method fixes all 3. Let me walk you through it. Here is the mistake almost everyone makes with this step. They define the irreducible core, and they write down a list of features. A sales page needs a headline, testimonials, a pricing table, FAQ, a founder story, 3 tires, a money back guarantee badge, a countdown timer, and so on. But that is not the core. That is simply a wish list. The irreducible core is the smallest thing you can ship that still proves the concept works. Not the smallest thing you are proud of, but the smallest thing that generates a real signal. Here is the test. Can you describe the core in 1 sentence where every word earns its place? If you need, let's say, 3 sentences, you have not removed enough. Let me give you 3 examples of what this actually sounds like. Example 1, let's say a consulting offer. I help SaaS founders under $2 million annual recurring revenue fix their churn problem in 6 weeks, and they pay me, let's say, $8,000. That is the core, not the website, not the case study PDF, not the LinkedIn content strategy. If you can say that sentence to the right person and they say, let's say, tell me more, you have a business. Example 2, a digital product, let's say a 30-minute video and a Notion template that simply teaches freelance designers how to price project-based work. That is the core, not the launch sequence, not the affiliate program, not the community Discord. A video and template. Ship those 2 things and you will discover whether anyone wants this. Example 3, a client proposal. 3 pages, the problem they have, the outcome I deliver, the price, and a way to pay. This is the core. Not the custom mockups, not the 6 case studies. Only 3 pages. But here is the trap. When you sit down to define your core, your brain will immediately start adding things. And that is normal. Your brain equates more features with more safety. The thinking goes, if I include a money back guarantee and FAQ and 3 case studies, the client cannot possibly say no. But that is backward. More features do not reduce risk. They simply delay the moment you discover whether the core itself is any good. If someone will not buy based on, let's say, I help SaaS founder fix churn in 6 weeks for $8,000, adding a prettier font or better font will not change their mind. You need to know that now, not after 3 months of building a website. Now pause here, write your irreducible core in 1 sentence, then resume. The 10 times compression test is simple on paper. Take your timeline, divide by 10 and ask what you would do. What nobody tells you is that your brain will resist this step more than any other, because the compression test does not just decrease your timeline. It exposes how much of your original plan was emotional padding. Here is what that resistance sounds like in your head. Well, I cannot possibly do it in 2.5 weeks because I need to research competitors first. Really? Have you not already researched them? You have been thinking about this project for 6 months and and you do not know what the market looks like. That research will take at least 3 weeks. Will it? Or are you defining research as, let's say, reading every competitor's entire blog archive until you feel confident enough to start? Those are two different activities. The first takes an afternoon and the second takes forever because it is not research. It is procrastination with a thesaurus. Let me run a real compression test with you right now. The project, let's be launching a paid workshop. Your instinct says 2 months. This means build a curriculum, design the slides, record a promo video, create a landing page, write 5 to, let's say, 7 emails, set up the payment system, announce it on social. 10% of 2 months is roughly 4 to 5 working days. What survives? You pick a date, you write the workshop title, and let's say simply 3 bullet points. Also, you put up a 1-page registration link with a payment button and you send it to 10 people. What dies? The custom slide deck. You use a Google document and talk through it live. The promo video, you write a LinkedIn post instead. The 5 to 7 email sequences, you send one email that says, I'm running a workshop on Friday. Here is the link. It will cost you only $200. Now here is the uncomfortable part. Look at what died. Be honest. Ask yourself, was any of it actually required for someone to buy a ticket? The slide deck was not what sold the workshop. The 5 email or 7 email sequence was not what sold the workshop. Your credibility, your topic, and your price simply sold the workshop. Everything else was insulation against the fear that nobody would show up. The 10 times compression test does not reveal what you can cut. It reveals what was never necessary in the first place. Now again, pause here. Run the 10 compression test on your project and write down what dies. Then again resume the video. There is a line in the article about consequences. It was something like a public launch date, a client who paid for delivery by Friday, a deposit that burns if you are late, and accountability partner who will not accept your excuses. That is the menu, but nobody tells you which one to pick, and most people pick the wrong one for their personality type. Let me break down this because the consequence has simply to match the person or it will simply fail. There are 3 types of personality traits. The first type is the social obligator. If you're this one, you're motivated by not wanting to look unreliable in front of people you respect. Your consequence should be a public commitment. Tell your email list the launch date, post it on LinkedIn. Tell 3 peers you will send them the link on Friday and ask them to check if they do not hear from you. Type 2 is the loss avoider. Simply, you are motivated by not losing something you already have. Money is your lever. Put down a non-refundable deposit on something tied to the deadline. Book a venue for a launch event. Hire a contractor whose invoice is due, regardless of whether you ship. Pay a friend $200 and tell them to donate it to cause you hate if you miss the deadline. And type 3 is the structure-dependent personality. You are motivated by external systems, not internal discipline. You need an accountability partner, but not a friend. Friends let you off the hook because they like you. Find someone who will be genuinely annoyed if you waste their time. Pay them if necessary. The best accountability partners are people who are slightly more disciplined than you and a little bit intimidating. Here is what all 3 types have in common. The consequence must involve another human being. A deadline that only exists in your task manager is not a deadline. It is a suggestion you wrote to yourself, and you, as you already probably know, you have spent years proving you can ignore suggestions from yourself. One more thing. The consequence should kick in automatically. If you have to impose the punishment manually, you will not. The friend with the $200 should donate it the moment the deadline passes, not to wait for you to authorize it. The accountability partner should message you at 5:01 p.m. rather than waiting for you to confess. You must remove yourself from the enforcement process entirely. Now again, pause here, pick your consequences, identify the person, set it up now, then resume. This step sounds small, but it's not in the reality. It is the difference between a deadline that works and deadline you miss and then feel bad about for 3 weeks. Here is the psychology behind it. When you set a deadline, your brain does something really interesting. It registers the commitment and then immediately goes looking for relief. Great, I have set the deadline. I will start on Monday or let's say Tuesday. The deadline is 2 weeks away. I have enough time. But here is the catch. Every time I set such a deadline 1 day before it comes, I always say, oh shit, if I only have 1 more day. And there is always 1 more day that I need. Every day between setting the deadline and starting the work, the project gains emotional weight. It shifts from something I am doing to something I am about to do. Those are not the same category. One is in motion, the other is in orbit. After 3 days of orbiting, the project feels heavier than it actually is. Your brain starts treating it like a confrontation instead of a task. You begin avoiding it without realizing you are avoiding it. You fill the time with preparation work that looks productive, but in reality it is really just more orbiting. The 90-minute rule breaks that cycle before it starts. The rule is within 24 hours of setting your deadline, you must complete a 90-minute deep work block on the irreducible core. Not planning the work, but on doing the work. No email before it, no Slack, no just one quick call. The only activity permitted during that window is building the smallest version of the thing you defined in step 1. Let me show you what this looks like for each of our examples. The first was consulting offer. Simply open your website editor, create a new page, write the headline, I help SaaS founders fix churn in 6 weeks, write 3 bullet points, add a Calendly link, hit publish. Yes, the page is ugly, but what is more important, it exists. The second example was about digital product. Open Loom, hit record, talk through the pricing framework for 30 minutes without any type of editing, without re-recording, without a script. Export the video, open Notion, build a template. You now have a product. It is rough, but again, it exists. The third case was client proposal. Simply open a Google Doc, type the client's problem, type your solution, type your price, type your payment link, send it. The proposal is only 3 pages, and again, it exists. Do you see the pattern? In all 3 cases, the output from the first 90 minutes is unpolished, slightly or possibly embarrassing, and completely real. That's the point. You cannot polish something that does not exist. The first 90 minutes create the thing. The remaining time improves it. Most entrepreneurs reverse this. They spend, let's say, 90% of their time planning, researching, and getting ready. Then they simply must rush the actual build in the final 10%. The result is a polished plan and rushed product. That's something I strongly avoid through our business strategy canvas framework. You can find the link to the business strategy canvas where you can download it and build your strategy in hours, not weeks or months. Build first, polish second. The 90-minute rule forces that sequence. Now again, pause here, schedule your first 90-minute block. It must happen within 24 hours. Put it in your calendar now, then resume and continue with the next steps. This is the hardest step and nobody talks about why. On the surface, it sounds simple. When the deadline arrives, whatever you have simply goes out. No extensions, no just one more day. But the reason this is hard is not logistical, it is psychological. When you ship something that is not finished, you're making a statement about your standards, and that statement scares people. The fear is not that the work is bad, the fear is more that someone will see the work and conclude that you are bad, so your taste exceeds your ability, that you are a fraud who got lucky once. That fear is real. I have felt it. Everyone who has ever shipped anything has felt it. But here is what that fear gets wrong. Nobody judges your unfinished work as harshly as you do. When a potential client sees a simple landing page with a clear offer, they do not think, whoa, this person did not spend enough time on the font. They simply think, does this solve my problem? And can I trust this person to deliver? And if the answer to both is no, the font still does not matter. You just learn something more valuable than a pretty page would have taught you. The core offer needs work. There is a second reason this step fails, and it is sneakier than the first one. Some people ship on deadline, get no response, and then simply they conclude that unreasonable deadline do not work. I shipped fast and nobody cared. I should have spent more time. This is a category error. The deadline is not a marketing strategy, it is an execution strategy. Shipping fast gets you a real signal faster. That signal might be positive, it might be, let's say, silence, it might be negative. But what's more important is that all 3 are more useful than spending 6 months guessing which one you would have gotten. If you ship your consulting offer and nobody books a call, you now know that the offer needs work. The positioning is off or the audience is wrong. That diagnosis would have taken you 6 months to arrive at the slow way. You just got it in a week. Now you simply iterate. Now you have real data. Now the next version is not based on your imagination of what customers want. It is based on what customers actually did. One practical tip here. When the deadline hits and you feel the urge to extend it, ask yourself this: what would I learn by shipping now that I will not learn by shipping in 2 weeks? If the answer is nothing, then maybe the extension is justified. But I have asked hundreds of entrepreneurs that question and almost none of them answered nothing. They usually answered some version of, I would learn whether anyone wants this, or I would learn if the pricing is right, or I would learn if my messaging is clear. Those are the things that matter. Not the font, not the slide deck, not the email sequence, the signal you get. Ship now, learn now, fix now. And for the last time, pause here. Write down, what would I learn by shipping today? You must answer honestly and then resume. There is one thing the article did not cover because it deserves its own conversation. It is what happens after you simply succeed with an unreasonable deadline. You ship, you get the signal, you feel the rush, and then your brain says, that was intense. I need a break. The break turns into a week. The week turns into a month. And you're right back where you started, except now you have a new rationalization. I proved I can ship fast. I'm just recharging now. I call this the sprint hangover. The sprint hangover is dangerous because it looks like a rest, but at the same time functions like regression. You lose the momentum you just paid so much discomfort to build. Here is how to prevent it. First, before you even start the sprint, decide what the next project is. Not in detail, just name it. After the workshop launch, the next thing is the email course. Having a name next step prevents the post-ship vacuum, where your brain defaults to, I guess I will check Twitter now. Second, schedule the rest. Do not let the rest happen to you. If the sprint took 2 weeks, schedule 3 days of lighter work. Not zero work, lighter work. Answer emails, organize files, read, but keep the daily rhythm alive. The goal is to step off the gas without turning off the engine. Third, set the start date for the next project before you finish the current one. The next 90-minute block should already be in your calendar before you ship. That way, the transition from one project to the next is a handoff, not a restart. Most entrepreneurs ship one thing fast, celebrate, and then spend 6 weeks simply to recover. That pattern over a year gives you maybe 4 shipped projects. An entrepreneur who ships fast and changes projects without the hangover ships 12 to 15 projects in the same year. The difference is not the speed, it is recovery management. The article ended with a line about time being a lever, not a constraint. I want to close with what that actually means for the project sitting in front of you right now. Your business has stored potential energy, ideas, skills, relationships, audience. And that energy is real, but stored energy produces nothing. It is capacity without conversion. A deadline is the release mechanism. It converts potential into kinetic. It turns I could into I did. But here is what most people miss. The deadline does not create energy. It reveals energy that was already there, trapped behind the illusion that you needed more time to access it. You do not need more time. You need the courage to find out what you can actually do with the time you have. So here is what I want you to do. After this video ends, do not watch another one. Do not open another tab. Open your calendar. Schedule your first 90-minute block. Pick your consequence, text the person who will hold you accountable, and then ship the thing. You will be amazed at how much of what you called work was never actually work at all. That's it. See you in the next video.